So first of all, I want to thank you guys so much for all the nice comments on my previous video. I'm really glad that I can teach you a little bit more about my passion for branding. In this second part of the podcast, I'm going to talk about brand culture and customer engagement. Enjoy part 2 of the podcast. Yeah, one of the things we seem to come across in this current COVID-19 situation when we start new projects is how to build a strong community, and that's hard for certain businesses. But like you said, brands like Tesla, for example, who have millions of people standing around charging their car, and meanwhile they start a conversation about their own Tesla, and that gets the customers really passionate about a certain brand. And I feel you also have that with people, for example, who have an iPhone. They say, yes, my phone is better than your Android phone, and I really found it intriguing how some companies actually can do such a can create such a big impact on the user of the product or the service.
Yes. Yeah, and I found that so important that in the book that I divided it into 2 separate chapters, and I have these several factors that there are more. I call it the sociology of platforms, because they are not just psychological factors that are important, they are also sociological factors. Because if you think about it, there is sort of so many dynamics. Think of a stadium. In America, sometimes if you go to a stadium, now we don't go to stadiums anymore, but in the past, they did something they called a wave. If you know, so you get up and get a wave, and what happens is, because the research has shown that in order to create the wave, number one, they always go from left to right. So you go up, then the next one to the right side goes up, and then up, and they found that the wave sustains longer the closer people are together to each other. So when you go, then the next person is automatically compelled to do the same thing. So what I try to put in the book is what are these sociological factors, the distance to each other, how close people are connected, and how you can leverage those insights in order to actually make your platform or business, digital business model successful. So there are some learnings out there that is very interesting that talks about these factors. I have 7 factors in the book that I describe, but those are really some insights from science, from sociology, from psychology, and other sort of like factors that drive the success of a business like that.
Yeah. Also, the next semester I have an internship at an incubator which is based in Kortrijk, so where I study in Belgium. And I have also a couple of questions for them, so a couple of situations. And one of them is also about the participants. So how can they attract the right young entrepreneurs, actually? And that's something like we said about brands, but how do you attract a certain amount of people that are really more engaged with young entrepreneurs, actually?
Yeah, look at the example in the book on Gopro. Yeah, Gopro is this great camera, but believe me or not, like by today, an iPod or an iPhone has as good of a camera or some others, and GoPro sustains themselves because despite the fact that Sony, Ricoh, Canon, and any other company is much bigger than anyone else, and there's a few lessons that I try to write in that book. And the one thing is that GoPro becomes successful because the original people who loved GoPro and sort of adopted GoPro and bought a GoPro camera, the hero camera, the early ones, they were extreme sports people, surfers, and then snowboarders. And what they taped and what they videotaped and what they posted on GoPro, on the GoPro channel, wasn't just anything. It was about some real cool shit, if you will, they did on the water or on the snow. And that attracted similar people that were like-minded. There wouldn't be a lot of people in one particular place, but globally, it built a community, a very intense community. You go on that channel, you could see some real awesome stuff. And what happens is, and that sustains that community, like a very, very close knit, some people who respect each other. Shaun White, was sort of like an instrumental celebrity, a snowboarder, if you will, that supported that, and so many others. When GoPro tried to say, oh, let's become bigger, let's include families who could also use that, and they make baby pictures, they failed massively, because when you are a serious snowboarder and now you see family channel type videos on the same channel, it didn't work. Neither the parents, it wasn't good for the community of snowboarders, and it wasn't good for the family people, and having trying to sort of capture memories of the babies growing up or something like that, or children growing up. That's just not GoPro. So I think that in that chapter, Peter, I wrote a lot of stuff in there of how to think through how the learning lessons of the mistakes you should avoid when you want to build a community. So you need to, one of the main lessons is you need to be very focused. You can't sort of like the idea of scaling is sort of contrary, if you will, sometimes, because you try to scale too fast and then you're losing actually the core nucleus of the mates works. GoPro had to massively change course when they went in the wrong direction on that, and they're thriving right now again.
Yeah, that's actually a lot of companies that start small and gain a really substantial amount of exponential growth. They really sometimes forget what the purpose of their business really is. And I think in the book you really talk a lot also about that the customer always, and the needs of the customer are actually when building when building a startup, this is one of the most important factors, that you keep the customers in mind always.
That's right.
And most of the small companies actually mostly focus on the competition, but like you said, it's more important to focus on the network and on your customers and on making your product better than instead wasting your time on the competition and trying to be better. And
that's right.
You said about the love brands. I also saw one of your TED talks about in 2007 or something, and you talked about how Harley Davidson and so they all were love brands, and they and every commercial had something to do with oh look at them smile in the commercial, and look at those people, and you say no, it's more important to actually fill the need of the customer than trying to make something happy and always. I really liked your view on your perspective on that topic.
I did a TED talk on that. That's true. And it is. What happens is that we've been growing up in the business in a world of competition, and we always think of competition first. The disruption basically is an idea of competition, disruptive competition, and I think that in this day and age, especially in the pandemic and post-pandemic world, I think people start to recognize that that it's not about competition, it's about collaboration, it's about engagement, it's about participation. I think that there is a new model out there. There's a professor at Columbia, her name is Rita McGrath, and Gunther McGrath. She says that there is the end of competitive advantage. And I think that there is some truth to that. And I think that once we start thinking in these new ways, and you know, BMW, Mercedes, and Audi have now realized, and Volkswagen, that they are not competing anymore against themselves. In the past, it was Stuttgart, Mercedes competes with Munich, BMW, with Audi in Ingolstadt, which is owned by Volkswagen. But now they realize that the three companies combined are less worth than Tesla altogether.
Yeah.
By
I'm
a
also a
big margin.
I'm also a big car guy, so I follow the scene and what's going on there.
Yeah. So it's not about competition, and a good example is Tesla just recently said, like, look, you think that we have an advantage in battery software technology than over everybody else? You know, if that is the case, why don't I share the technology with you guys? And it's a big statement of collaboration and engagement. Everybody benefits if the battery software technology is an advantage, rather than keep it to yourself and say, this is my competitive advantage to win over BMW, Mercedes. Tesla says, let's share it. If we share that, the biggest part of an electric car is the battery costs, right? If we could share the technology, the battery costs would go down, the cars will become more affordable, everybody benefits.
Yeah. Also, like you said, if Tesla shares the technology, companies that are making longer cars like Mercedes that make internal combustion engines for way longer, they don't have the technology or the research, the R&D, and if they combine with Tesla their data, they can work faster and create more velocity to improve the new EV style electric vehicles. And that's why, like you said, sharing your data, your information is actually really important for these type of brands who are making a shift to electric vehicles, to learn from new companies like Tesla. And Tesla is really great also in like adding real subtle tweaks and subtle specialties, like the swan doors on the Model X and such things. But I really like how Elon Musk sometimes doesn't take the business so seriously as other brands.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that's you know, it's a beauty of business that we live in. I think, and, you know, the beautiful thing in this case is also that the success and the financial success that comes with it now is sort of like proving those people right.
Yeah. Because also I viewed an article recently, and it was about how Tesla actually never advertises like the typical brands, and Tesla they actually benefit from their launch, where they rolled the Cybertruck on stage and they said the window is bulletproof, and they threw a rock at it and it shattered.
Yes, it is.
And all people on stage were talking about it, and actually I think the whole world actually heard about the Cybertruck. Even women who aren't even into cars heard about the truck. And I think such a branding is actually a creative way, and most companies do it like social media or something. But it's nice to have brands like Apple, for example, now have. They never post it on their Twitter or on the YouTube channel, but Apple, everybody knows somebody who has an iPhone, and they start talking to each other, and they talk about how much they like their iPhone, and they really talk about the product, and there is a certain passion, and I think that is really the strong point also about Tesla and Apple, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, when you put, in a way, you put the advertising into your product. You invest. It's an alternative way of investment. And if you drive the innovation in your product so much, you don't need to advertise.
Yeah.
You don't need to advertise. I'm glad that this in an industry which is known to spend a big proportion on moving metal, if you will, and moving cars off the parking lot. In an industry there's someone coming that says, look, we can do it in a different way, and it works. So I'm glad that works. Yeah, there is a Stuart Brand is a comedian, a British comedian, who once said, if a brand needs to advertise, then you don't need it.
Yeah. Sometimes if I watch TV or something and I see certain brands, certain commercial nowadays, you sometimes think the commercial isn't really that related to the brand. Even if you see like perfume or car commercials, you think it's more about the people around the car than the car itself. And sometimes I think brands like Tesla who actually don't have these type of commercials and just have people talking about their brand, that's actually a completely different way of advertising. But I think it's sometimes even stronger than your average normal TV commercial or your social media commercials, which everybody is talking about nowadays, like Instagram or Facebook. Most people advertise on there, but like Tesla, they make memes about the shattering glass, and it spreads all over the internet.
Yeah.
And eventually, people start a conversation about the Cybertruck.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. We talked about marketing as conversations years ago, and then it appears to be a concept, an idea by a few people that have written that book, and then somebody actually does it. Somebody actually, and in this case, Elon Musk has been able to prove sort of the doubters right or wrong, if you will. So and I think of course there's a good role for advertising in many ways, but in many ways you have to, if you work hard enough, you can actually figure out another model, and that's, I think, what's the beautiful thing about this one. So about Elon Musk now, I started researching their company 5-6 years ago when I began with thinking about the book, and everybody says, Erich, don't write about Tesla, because if you write about Tesla, they will be bankrupt by the time you finish the book, and as an author, the biggest worry is that your book comes out and your case studies that you relied on to draw out principles and ideas are dead. So I decided to write on Tesla. And then there's like this. There's this years go by when you have made so much commitment and you're getting worried. Is are they running out of money? Are they? And I'm glad that just happened the opposite on this one.
but I think like it builds actually on the character of a certain brand. Like you really see them as like you have your typical brands. Like if we're talking about cars, like your Mercedes, Volkswagen, BMWs, and then people really, not only because it's electric vehicles, but people who aren't really interested in cars, they know Teslas. They know it by the looks. They know it by if you pass a McDonald's, we have in our town where I study, we have a McDonald's, and right next to the McDonald's there are some charging stations, and you see people coming with their Model S's and their Model X and their Model Ys, and they start a conversation. They start talking as long as their car is charging, and they start eating. I really think there is something about that attracts certain people to such a community, actually, such a brand culture, and that's not only not only they buy Tesla because it's electric and because it's better for the environment, but most people love it also for the technology. And so I think the part of the marketing is also a character actually of the brand itself. And like Apple also, they really don't like to do that much commercials because they know the brand is premium and people talk positive about it. If they build a good product, which the user actually sees as a premium product that never has flaws, or if there is a flaw, it's directly updated. And if you have an old iPhone, you still get updates. So people can longer get, like I have an iPad mini over here, and I have that thing. My dad bought it in Atlanta at the launch event. And that thing has been running for 8 years. And I was so glad that I bought an iPhone. And that's a great example. Like, it's not that I'm such a big Apple fan, but I thought if my iPad is running for so long, then if I buy an iPhone, it will last also longer than an Android phone. Yeah. And that's really something I really like about certain brands, that they have that certain things that they stand for, so like the premium quality or like the technology. And I think that's for certain people that actually draws them over the line to buy a certain product. Yeah.
What happens is, we have forgotten in a way that the magic is between a business model, some innovation, a brand, and a community or the consumer, and how those three pieces or four pieces sort of come together. And when you become unimaginative, then you say branding is all about advertising, and we need to advertise, and we come up with a creative concept and a campaign or something like that. And when you think about broader, then you realize that it's in that combination, if you will, where a business model and a new business concept, like an interaction field, together with a brand and this consumer base, sort of, or that when they come together in sort of a, what I call in the book, almost like self-perpetuating just cycle, and then it works. It's if you think that that's the GoPro example. It's a simple example, but people's it's literally, I've described it in that book, and I think I see that time and again, and where there is this self-perpetuating cycle, and if you can create that, I think that's really where success lies. I think also in the future. So this is what that was the ideas in the book that I sort of like try to come across, because the brands, like, it's like I always say, how do you learn about the like an Apple, and the latest Apple thing? How do you learn about it? You don't see it advertised and compared relative to something else. You find out about it. You're sort of like, you find out about it. You download something, and you go like, oh, this is cool as shit. I
think also because nowadays we have these social medias like Instagram, and it's each 5 seconds we get a new advertisement and they throw it in our faces. I think it's really refreshing to see brands like Tesla and Apple who really take a step back and know they have a good product that actually will sell, and people will start talking about the product. That's something that really interests me also when I dug also a little bit deeper about brands like the marketing around Apple and Tesla, who don't really put that much information on social media, or don't post that much, or don't do actually on Instagram campaigning or making ads on the platforms. And I think that's really a trend on there. And I sometimes I wonder, how can Apple and Tesla pull that off, but certain other brands actually can't? And that's something really to think about, actually.
But I think that it has to do with a mindset of how do you shift your value creation into the product and the vision and the frame that what you're trying to solve for, or do you shift it into, oh, then we can also do a truck, an electric truck, and if we also do an electric truck, well, if you say it like that, and we can do it better than Tesla. Then you are again in the better, faster, cheaper, and better world. And then you need to advertise to tell people that yours is better, faster, and cheaper or something. And I think then you're in the old world, in the competitive world. And I think that the challenge is to think about, again, what I think is the understanding that the consumer in some ways, and ask yourself, what am I truly solving for in the life of consumers? And Tesla, I mean, I could go on forever. Is just like Apple, is like off the charts on those dimensions. And in a small world, also GoPro. I always want to emphasize a company like GoPro because Nick Goodman, the founder of GoPro, he with his girlfriend walked up and down the beach selling beads, like chains, for $60 that he bought for a few dollars in Bali. And he made money and he lived out of his Volkswagen van that he had, and he lived out of that. And starting with that, he made enough money to give himself enough time to experiment with the GoPro camera, with the straps that he needed to shoot the photos and video on the water. And so it isn't necessarily the most funded company that solves for that. So it doesn't have to be a popular example like Tesla, because Elon had made a lot of money prior to founding Tesla already. So it is possible for a startup to actually achieve the same success.